So, how to help players deal with nerves? A couple of ways to do this. First way is to use a relaxation technique, like, for example, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, focusing on nothing but your breathing really clearly, really deliberately, in a really focused way. That's a really effective method for dealing with nerves and also helping people think much clearer under pressure. Second way is to use a technique called reframing. So rather than seeing nerves as this negative signal that we're not ready, that we're nervous, that we're anxious, actually seeing nerves as something that's useful, a sign that we're excited, a sign that our body's actually getting ready to perform, because that's actually what it is doing whenever we feel things like an increased heart rate, butterflies in our stomach, sweaty palms. That's just a sign that our body's getting ready to perform. So thinking of that whenever we experience nerves is another way of helping to deal with them, helping them to reframe them as something positive. So does sports psychology work for everyone? Well, not every athlete works with a sports psychologist. But on the other hand, psychology is being recognised as being far more important for successful sport and performance than it has been in the past. Now, my job as a sports psychologist isn't necessarily to teach people the right mindset or the one winning mindset, or to encourage one set of personality traits which are associated with superior performance. My job really is to help people become more aware of what their unique high performance mindset is, or how their unique personality helps them perform at their best more consistently and more frequently. It's not about teaching one mindset which is going to be the mindset to beat all mindsets. It's really an individual process, an individual thing. So joining a new team can be really challenging for a sports person. On the one hand, you want to make a really good impression to your new teammates and your new coaches. But on the other hand, you know that you're going to perform better by just focusing on you and focusing on your performance. So how can you do that? Well, the key might be in goal setting. So most sports people are really good at setting outcome goals, like, for example, making my new team starting lineup. The slight problem with only focusing on outcome goals is that we're not entirely in control of them. Take the example of making your new team's starting lineup. What other factors influence that? The coach's selection policy, the performance of your teammates. So it's not a particularly useful thing to solely focus on. We need to do a little bit more of our goal setting. We need to focus on something called process goals. Now, process goals kind of sit underneath outcome goals, and they're the things that we need to focus on a daily basis in each training session, which are going to help us achieve our outcome goal. What are the things I need to do regularly and consistently that's going to give me the best opportunity to achieve my outcome goal? So if a sports person's focusing on the processes, the things in their control, it's going to give them the best opportunity of achieving their outcome goal. And so in the context of joining a new team, if an athlete is focusing solely on what are the things I need to do to give myself the best opportunity to make a good impression and make my new team starting lineup, it is really about focusing on those processes rather than on the outcome. How does sports psychology improve performance? Really big question. Just think about these factors that we know influence performance. Motivation, confidence, resilience, emotions. What do all these factors have in common? They're psychological factors. So sports psychology can influence our performance in a whole variety of different ways, whether it's using goal setting to improve the quality of our motivation, using positive self-talk to help us think more positively under pressure, or using relaxation techniques to help control our emotions. There's a whole host of different techniques out there which are supported by scientific evidence that we know improves the performance of athletes via psychological processes. So how to stop players overreacting in tense, challenging situations? The key really is to be proactive. We have a tendency sometimes to use wishful thinking when we prepare for performance. We try to overlook, we try to be optimistic about what's going to happen. We think, oh, let's not worry about what could potentially go wrong. Let's focus solely on what can go right. When actually, really, we want to spend a little bit of time planning and preparing for difficult, challenging, tense situations that may occur in the game, and thinking, okay, if that happens, how are we going to respond? So rather than reacting off the cuff to these tough, challenging situations, being more prepared having spent more time thinking about what could actually go wrong in this game and actually having a response pre-planned and ready. So pre-performance routines, really, really important in sport, particularly in sports that involve what we call closed skills. So these are skills which aren't as influenced by the environment, skills where the performer has their own time to execute a skill. So for example, golf, free throws in basketball, or penalties in football. Now, there's not really a right or wrong way to do a pre-performance routine. It's more about breaking your routine down into steps and asking yourself, is each of these steps helpful for me to achieve the psychological state that I want to achieve, so that when I come to execute the skill, I'm in the absolute right frame of mind. I'm solely focused on what it is I'm trying to do there and then that moment, and I'm absolutely ready to perform. Really important question here in regards to the current pandemic going on. How do we help teams develop their communication skills when they can't actually train together? So the solution might be using sessions over Zoom or over Skype. Something that you can ask players to do is share how they're coping with the current pandemic, particularly if they're not able to train together. Or maybe asking each of your players to share a moment where they felt like they performed at their peak, or a moment where they felt like they were really under pressure to perform. Getting players to share their experiences more with their teammates, allowing them to open up more about their experiences to their teammates, opens up those channels of communication more, not just off the pitch, but also allows them to be more open and more free to communicate on the pitch as well. So communication doesn't just happen on the pitch, you can also develop it off the pitch as well. When we don't perform at our best, it can be really easy to start being overly critical of ourselves. Why? Because we all have a tendency to think in black and white. We put success in one camp and failure in another camp, and there's nothing in between. So one technique that can help us deal with failure a bit more constructively is to imagine a scale from 0 to 10. 0 being worst possible ever performance and 10 being best possible ever performance. And then rate your performance on that scale, okay? Then you can start actually, rather than thinking in black and white, thinking a little bit more constructively about your performance. So what elements actually were potentially quite positive about that performance? And then what things do I need to do in order to get myself a higher rating on the scale next time? So rather than thinking in black and white, thinking a little bit more logically and a little bit more balanced.